St. Mercy's emergency room was descending into chaos. A sudden, deafening roar tore through the room. "Don't you dare touch my sister!" A 7-foot, 300-pound giant, Noah Briggs, charged the ER like a furious beast. Security guards were thrown aside. Doctors froze. Nurses scattered. Only one soul stood unmoved. Nurse Aria Lane, small, quiet, and barely a week on the job. The rookie stepped directly into the giant's charging path. In 3 swift, fluid seconds, she executed an unseen tactical move. The giant instantly folded, his massive frame neutralized and crashing to the floor. Silence fell. Every eye was locked on the tiny nurse. She just body slammed a mountain. Aria Lane, 25, was the embodiment of the term understated. Her scrubs looked a size too big, her movements were tentative, and her responses were always apologetic. To the seasoned, cynical staff of the ER, she was an anomaly, a graduate with top honors but zero observable grit. She was immediately labeled the porcelain rookie. Dr. Cameron Flint, 48, chief of emergency medicine, ran his department with military precision and zero tolerance for softness. He was Arya's most vocal detractor. "This place is where people come to die, Nurse Lane. Not to knit blankets," he'd scoff, his voice cutting through the noise. "You flinch every time the trauma buzzer rings. The ER is no place for weak kids." Dr. Flint believed in steel. Arya appeared to be glass. The other nurses treated her like an inconvenient piece of decor, assigning her the most menial tasks: stocking IV fluids, sterilizing instrument trays, and shuttling patient charts. "She gets jumpy around a simple chest tube insertion," one whispered. "Good grades don't buy competence here." Arya absorbed the judgment without resistance. She simply smiled faintly. "I will try harder, doctor." Her desire for a normal life was a deep, driving hunger. After years spent where death was measured in seconds and triage was the difference between life and oblivion, Arya craved the quiet bureaucracy of a standard hospital. She was hiding the warrior, the machine, the survivor beneath the thin veneer of a nervous rookie. On her 3rd night, the veneer cracked slightly. A toddler was rushed in, choking, rapidly turning blue. Panic seized the room. Dr. Flint fumbled for the laryngoscope. But before he could act, Arya was there. Her hands, usually hesitant, became instruments of pure, focused intent. Her fingers probed the child's throat with blinding speed, a technique so delicate and yet so aggressive, it defied her perceived personality. She dislodged the obstruction, a small plastic toy, in less than 5 seconds. The child gasped, color rushing back. Dr. Flint could only stare. That was exceptional technique. Arya instantly retreated, her face flushed, and murmured, "Just lucky, doctor. I once saw a video tutorial on YouTube." The staff accepted the easy explanation. They needed to believe she was a novice. The alternative was too unsettling. Now the patient arrived. Eliza Briggs, a young woman suffering chemical burns and blunt force trauma from an industrial accident. Her trauma was severe, and with her came Noah. Noah Briggs was a legend in the city's warehouse district, known for his brute strength and fierce, unyielding loyalty to his younger sister Eliza. He looked like an enraged colossus, his face twisted with fear, his voice a dangerous, low rumble. The head security officer, a massive former boxer, stood outside the door and stated frankly, "Do not let him breach that door. That's not a man. That's walking, talking, uncontrollable fury." They saw the rage. They didn't see the love, the deep, agonizing fear that was driving the giant. The observation, an elderly patient, a frequent visitor to the ER, watched Arya meticulously clean a sterile field. He caught her eye and offered a knowing, quiet observation. "Young lady, I've seen killers and saviors in my time. Your eyes, they look like they've carried a world war." Arya froze. Her mask slipped. She stopped breathing for a beat. She didn't reply, but the message hung heavy in the air. The truth was seen, but not yet understood. Then the sister, Eliza, screamed from the treatment room, the scream of pure, sharp agony, The scream that drove a protector to madness. The 7-foot giant went feral. The giant's rampage was simply the trigger. Arya's response, the true catastrophic event for the ER's sense of reality, unlocked a level of crisis management they were completely unprepared for. When Noah heard his sister's cry, a sound he associated with pain and helplessness, the last vestige of his control shattered. He charged the treatment area, driven by instinct. The 2 security guards tried to contain him. One was backhanded across the hallway. The other was lifted and tossed aside like a doll. The path to the trauma bay was clear. Dr. Flint yelled into his radio for backup. Nurses fled, seeking cover behind crash carts. Only Arya was in his way. She held up her hands, palms open, her small figure dwarfed by his shadow. Her voice, still calm, was now devoid of any rookie softness. "Mr. Briggs, stop. That is a sterile, life-saving zone. You will not interfere." Noah roared, blinded by adrenaline, didn't even register her as an obstacle. He swung his massive arm down, intending to shove her aside. Arya moved. It was not a dodge. It was a counterattack orchestrated with split-second timing. She shifted her weight, ducking under the swing. Her left hand snatched his forearm, while her right hand locked onto his elbow. She pivoted using a technique known in combat circles as a sumigeshi, a sacrifice throw, but modified for maximum control and minimum harm. She used his own forward momentum, coupled with a perfectly timed low rotation, to unbalance his colossal center of gravity. The noise was breathtaking. Noah's body crashed to the ground, subdued. His head barely missed the metal corner of a nearby ventilator. Dr. Flint stared, his face a mask of complete disbelief. "That's a specialized tactical maneuver. Who taught you that, Nurse Lane?" Arya didn't even glance at him. She checked Noah's airway and circulation immediately, confirming he was immobilized but safe. "He's stable," she said, her voice dropping back to its quiet register. "Please sedate him. He is in acute emotional distress." The staff was still processing the event when the world exploded. "MCI incoming." The trauma alert sounded, a horrifying, insistent wail, a multi-vehicle crash, code black, bringing 15 critical patients, including 7 children. The ER capacity was instantly overwhelmed by 400%. The organized chaos of the ER dissolved into pure, terrifying pandemonium. Staff were losing control. That's when the T-medic took over. The rookie vanished. Arya became the anchor. She didn't ask, she commanded. Her voice sliced through the hysteria like a scalpel. "Dr. Chen, you take Trauma Bay 1. Prioritize C-spine and internal hemorrhage. Nurse Jones, triage the PEDs. Use the START method. Green tags to the hallway, red tags to bays 2 and 4. I need rapid blood typing and cross-match for the boy in Bay 2. Get that arterial line in now." Dr. Flint, paralyzed by the sheer volume of cases, found himself instinctively following her orders. She was prioritizing, delegating, and correcting errors faster than his 20 years of experience allowed. Her skills were terrifyingly high level. She spotted a tension pneumothorax on an elderly woman instantly, shouting, "Needle decompression, 4th intercostal space, now!" The resident was too slow. Arya grabbed the needle, inserted it with flawless precision, and watched the chest rise. The resident stared. "How did you know the angle was off by 2 millimeters? Arya only replied, "I don't miss." The near loss. A 7-year-old girl, the daughter of one of the drivers, was rushed in. Massive cranial trauma. Her heart rate plummeted, then stopped. Asystole. The attending physician, exhausted and terrified, made the call. Time of death. Arya slammed her hand onto the cart, cutting him off. Her eyes, usually soft, were now cold, burning emeralds. "No, we don't stop. Not yet." Her mind, however, was already in a remote combat zone. She could hear the sand scraping under her boots. "If the protocol fails, you improvise, Sergeant." Her training kicked in, a cold, calculated machine overriding the scared rookie. She didn't see the little girl. She saw a casualty whose perfusion time was running out. Every beat of her own heart was a countdown. She had to breach protocol. The child's life was worth the inevitable tribunal. She took over the resuscitation. Her compressions were flawless, deep, and rapid. She coordinated the drug administration, demanding the correct dose of atropine and epinephrine. Then, the moment of pure combat revelation. As she performed compressions, a quick, jagged flashback hit her. The dust, the gunfire, the sound of her friend, Sergeant Miller, flatlining in the sand. I couldn't save him. I failed. She channeled the guilt, the failure, and the trauma into a ferocious, life-giving drive. Her muscles strained, converting years of relentless physical conditioning into rhythmic, perfect pressure. The monitor was her enemy, and her hands were the only salvation. She started shouting, not at the staff, but at the child. "Fight! You hear me? Fight! Come back!" Her hands pumped, an unwavering machine of life. Beep, beep, beep. The monitor showed a faint, unsteady rhythm. The child's heart had started. Dr. Flint fell back against the wall, his hands shaking. He looked at Arya, seeing not a nurse but a force of nature. You pushed a massive dose of lidocaine without approval. That's outside procedure, Nurse Lane." Arya, sweat dripping from her temple, looked at the doctor, the intensity in her eyes never wavering. It was necessary for rhythm conversion. The procedure failed. The life did not. A seasoned trauma surgeon, Dr. Eleanor Vance, arrived late and observed the wreckage of the night. She watched Arya calmly chart the final critical orders. She whispered to a colleague, "That girl just ran a forward surgical team in our ER. Her skill set is not civilian. I have seen that kind of detached, lethal competence only once before, at a field hospital deployment. She is a weapon of healing." The hospital was forced to acknowledge the impossible truth. Arya was not a beginner, and the giant, Noah, was about to become her most critical, unexpected ally. Dr. Flint spent the next 24 hours in his office, his focus lost. He used his deepest government connections to unearth the truth about Aria Lane. He found the redacted file. The full identity was devastating. Aria Lane was a former sergeant, 75th Ranger Regiment Support, tactical field medic. Her designation wasn't just medic. She was trained in immediate high-leverage field surgery, advanced trauma life support, ATLS, and Hapkido combat neutralization, the very move she used on Noah. The blacked-out sections detailed the day she left the service, a catastrophic ambush in a densely populated area. She saved 32 soldiers and civilians, but 2 close friends died due to delayed extraction. The report stated she suffered from severe moral injury, the trauma of witnessing human failure on a massive scale, rather than the simple fear of death. Jula su genro qua quen luktuyet joy. Noiko fai jong by chua, quet jin I juag jiu tritruang. I fai cho joy, I ko de jua kum. Lua chontrotan mod ita ben thong la ka kotu trong fat. Buok banthan fai song trong sukiam soat vatran. Xian hung quiet jin sin to mako kwak yoi. She didn't just quit the military. She erased her life, seeking a place where failure meant a form filled out wrong, not a body bag. She came to the ER to be weak, so she would never be forced to be a warrior again. She chose mediocrity over madness. Dr. Flint, humbled to the core, finally understood. Arya was overqualified for his entire department. His rookie was a decorated combat veteran. While Noah was being held and sedated, his sister Eliza suddenly went into violent, full-body seizures. Her blood pressure plummeted. A frantic attending physician shouted, "It's a massive hemorrhage! We're losing her!" Noah, still groggy, overheard the panic and began to thrash, screaming, "I told you! They're hurting her! She's not okay!" Arya, still in her command mode, rushed back to the bedside. She ignored the patient's chart. She ignored the trauma team's diagnosis. She looked at the specific pattern of Eliza's convulsions, the faint cyanosis, and the sickly, sweet metallic odor on her breath, a smell no civilian medic would ever recognize. She immediately recognized a signature she had encountered overseas. Su chak chankwa Arya kien kanfong ngap trong motsu imleng ngahiem. Sasbak si vai ten hin hao, Jiao trang yua viek tuan theo qui, train ve lam theomen, len quang goi ma, mot tawan truak ho kongoila, lint moi. Apluk thoi gyan jenang, moi gai troi qua jula, mot kanbak. Bak si kol, ngoi luon genti, lep bap fan joy, jai lashan joan gia jin, nil ko say, liu luong atropan, josegia chet koi. Arya didn't argue. She made her final, definitive command. Her voice cracked with the weight of her knowledge. Start atropine, 2 milligrams, IV push, followed by pralidoxim. This is not a trauma. This is a level A chemical threat. If you delay, she dies in 30 seconds. Dr. Flint hesitated for a second, then saw the absolute, terrifying certainty in her eyes. He nodded stiffly. Execute the order. Now. The pupils are pinpoint, the fasciculations are immediate. Standard ER toxicology panels will take 40 minutes. 40 minutes she doesn't have. We are treating the symptom, not waiting for the paper. Arya's hands were steady, delivering the antidote with a speed that bypassed the usual double checks. The chemical smell, faintly noticeable now, was the ghost of 1,000 training scenarios she'd hoped never to repeat. She also noted the excessive bronchuria and bradycardia, classic muscarinic signs that scream toxicity, not internal bleeding. The antidote hit the bloodstream, and the spasms instantly began to subside. It was a miracle of speed and obscure knowledge. Arya managed the antidote with the same lethal focus she used to subdue Noah. The convulsions ceased. Eliza stabilized. The diagnosis was correct. Noah was released from the restraints, his eyes wide with profound, tearful understanding. He walked over to Arya, his giant frame now bowing in respect. You saved her life twice tonight, Nurse Lane. First from the accident, and then from the invisible killer. I thought I was her protector. I was just a fool. He didn't see the rookie anymore. He saw the warrior. Arya placed a gentle hand on his huge arm. Your love for her saved her, Mr. Briggs. I just provided the antidote. The events were undeniable, yet the old guard resisted. Dr. Marcus Cole, a jealous, ambitious resident, confronted Arya in the staff lounge. You are a nurse. You overstepped your authority with every command. You risk liability with that lidocaine. You should be fired for insubordination. His voice was laced with years of built-up arrogance and resentment. Arya looked up, her expression calm, but her eyes burning with the collected trauma of 1,000 decisions. She stood slowly, facing the man who was half her size in muscle, but full of venom. Dr. Cole, I came here to be a normal nurse. I wanted to forget the things I know. But tonight, I saved 9 lives using knowledge that requires me to take charge. I didn't override procedure. I performed an unplanned level 4 intervention to secure the patient's life. Your procedure failed. I succeeded. She stepped closer, her tone dropping to a sharp, dangerous whisper only he could hear. In the field, when I'm out of options, I don't follow rules. I follow the heart rate. You can fire me, but you can't bring back the children I saved. As Dr. Cole sputtered, unable to formulate a rebuttal, a shadow fell over him. Noah Briggs, having heard the commotion, stood framed in the doorway, his massive arms crossed, his gaze fixed on Cole. I just overheard the doctor trying to bully the woman who saved my sister's life, Noah said, his voice a low, warning rumble. She's not a nurse to me. She's a godsend. If you have a problem with her, you take it up with me. I am her security now. The terrified resident instantly backed down. The old hierarchy was irrevocably broken. Eyewitness account at the end of Act 3. Dr. Vance, the trauma surgeon, later called Dr. Flint. Cameron, I just saw the impossible. That girl has the gorilla's mind, the ability to improvise trauma care with zero resources. She's not meant for the ER. She's meant to run it. The reckoning was swift, powerful, and deeply emotional. The fear and contempt were replaced by awe and a profound, collective need for change. The next morning, an emergency staff meeting was called. Attendance mandatory. The tension was palpable. Dr. Flint walked to the podium. His posture changed. He was no longer the strict dictator. He was a humbled leader. I owe Nurse Lane a public apology, Dr. Flint stated, his voice ringing with genuine remorse. I judged her based on appearance, on a lack of aggression I mistook for weakness. I subjected her to ridicule and unnecessary tasks. I was blind. He then turned to Arya, who sat quietly in the back row. Sergeant Lane, your file is no longer redacted to me. I now know that your rookie week was a calculated attempt to live small. But last night, your excellence saved not just patients, but this entire department from failure. I apologize for underestimating the warrior in you. Going forward, this ER will no longer tolerate weakness, but we will respect quiet strength. We will adopt her protocols. This department is changing today. We will learn how to fight smarter, harder, and with greater control. Dr. Flint's commitment was a promise that the old, rigid ER was dead. The room broke out in spontaneous applause, led by the nurses who had once mocked her. Noah Briggs, looking clean and respectful in a new suit, stood up and addressed the room. My name is Noah. My sister is Eliza. Without Nurse Lane, my sister would be dead. I came here like a monster, trying to fight everyone. She didn't fight me with force. She fought me with skill, control, and respect. She saw the fear behind the rage. She taught me that true strength isn't about being the biggest. It's about being the most controlled. She saved my sister, and she saved my soul. In the hospital management, seeing the massive boost in patient outcomes and the public relations opportunity, moved decisively. They scrapped the old rigid emergency protocols. The birth of the TMRU. The board immediately approved the formation of a specialized unit, the Tactical Medical Response Unit, TMRU. This unit would train staff in advanced field triage, de-escalation, high-threat incident management, and life-saving interventions outside standard protocol. The only person qualified to lead it, Aria Lane. Arya was offered the position of Director of Tactical Medical Training, a promotion that bypassed every senior nurse and most residents. The salary was double. The responsibility was immense. Arya was tearful, overwhelmed by the sudden spotlight. She finally admitted the depth of her trauma to Dr. Flint. I left the 75th because I couldn't bear the weight of command anymore, Doctor. Every life saved brings the memory of the two I lost. I came here to hide from being a hero. Dr. Flint nodded gently. You don't have to hide anymore, Arya. You can choose your fight, but you must use your gift. You owe it to the living. Arya accepted the role. Her first official act was to redesign the ER's security interaction points, working directly with Noah Briggs, who volunteered to train security staff in non-lethal de-escalation tactics, citing Arya's perfect technique. The giant became her unexpected partner. Noah returned to the ER, not as a threat, but as a friend. He gifted her the handcrafted leather wristband, its surface engraved with the single, powerful word, brave. Keep fighting, Nurse Lane, but fight here. We need your war for peace. If you believe that true strength is revealed not by what you can destroy, but by what you can save. 1 year later, St. Mercy's ER was transformed. It was still chaotic, but it was functionally chaotic. The TMRU, under Aria's quiet, focused leadership, had radically improved response times and patient survival rates. Arya herself had found peace. She was still humble, but the self-effacing shyness was gone, replaced by a quiet, self-assured confidence. She still wore the bracelet Noah gave her. She had designed a new training module, blending trauma theory with combat field wisdom. In one session, she taught a group of new residents the importance of the golden minute, the first 60 seconds after a critical event. You do not have time for bureaucracy, Arya instructed, her voice calm and authoritative. Your job is to secure, stabilize, and evacuate, all within that minute. In the field, you learn to identify the killer in the room. Here, the killer is complacency. Never be complacent. She demonstrated the fluid, controlled neutralization technique on a volunteer doctor, the exact move she used on Noah. The doctor, much larger than Arya, crashed down perfectly, safe and immobilized. The students were mesmerized. Dr. Flint, now her staunchest ally, often watched her training sessions. He saw his old contempt had been a profound personal failure. He had looked for softness and missed steel. Ko ai kongbao gyo sochet, antun hu, Kwansat Arya Gm Tin Huang, Dan Motuk Tapsin, Jarung Thong Tin, Mach Trong Tam. Gio Koi Thuk Su, Sola Fai Chien Jiao Mot Lan Nua. Noah Briggs and his sister, Eliza, were constants in her life. Eliza, fully recovered, visited regularly, bringing Arya handmade thank you notes. "You're still my favorite superhero, Director Lane," Eliza would say, hugging Arya fiercely. "I told you, sweetheart," Arya would laugh. "Just a nurse now." But deep down, the warrior had accepted her identity. She realized the ER was her final battlefield, a place where she could apply her terrible knowledge to good ends, finally mitigating the trauma of her past losses. She was no longer running from the deaths of her two comrades. She was honoring them with every life she saved. Arya often stood by the small memorial plaque she had secretly installed in the staff quiet room, dedicated to those who fell in the field. She whispered the names of her two lost friends. "I found my normal, guys," she'd whisper, the leather bracelet reflecting the soft light. "It turns out my normal is just fighting in a different uniform. I'm still here, still saving." The trauma buzzer sounds a particularly violent, persistent ring. "We have a level 1 priority inbound. Male, mid-30s, extreme paranoia, highly agitated, possible weapon involved. Security cannot contain him. He's too aggressive." The staff hesitated, remembering the chaos of Noah Briggs's entry. Arya calmly finished charting a patient file. She smoothly tied her hair back into a perfect bun, the motion signaling the transition from medic to T-medic. She adjusted the brave wristband. "I'll take this one," she said, her voice completely steady, a quiet hum of absolute competence. Dr. Flint nodded, no longer questioning her authority. "Director Lane, be careful." Arya smiled, a faint, genuine smile that held the kindness of a healer and the resolve of a soldier. "Doctor, I'm always careful. I just know how to end a fight before it begins." She walked towards the intake doors, not just a nurse, but the guardian of the hospital, the warrior who had embraced her gift. The giant taught her to fight. The dead taught her to heal, and the ER taught her how to live. 950 words. If you believe courage still lives in everyday heroes, subscribe to the Veteran Story. Real people are creating and telling stories, not mass-produced AI.